Hey friends, today I'm going to talk to you about my phone. I'm going to tell you about the apps we use, the ones we've used during our road trip in the camper van. For me, these are absolutely essential. And feel free, based on this list, to let me know in the comments which ones you use. I know that a lot of people who travel and live the van life use apps, and sometimes there are some real gems, so maybe among mine, you'll find some gems too, and you can try them out on your phone. Let's get started right away with the apps that help you find your location and plan routes. Among these, there are usually two camps, those who prefer Google Maps and those who prefer Map. Mappy, and actually there are three, since there's Mappy as well, and those who prefer the one with the ghost, Waze, of course. Now, I have another one to recommend to you, one I've tested myself. It's called Roadlords. So, what's the difference between these different apps? Well, with some of them, you can enter the size of your vehicle, and sometimes they'll guide you along different routes. For example, if you have a really large vehicle, Roadlords is great because it's designed for vehicles over 3.3 tons, for convoys and such. So, needless to say, it won't send you down narrow, winding roads. Instead, it'll guide you along more major routes where you won't have issues with bridge height or road width. So this app can be pretty cool. Personally, I've used Google Maps very often. Why that one instead of Waze? I don't know. Once again, it's a matter of personal preference. A lot of us go back and forth between one or the other, sometimes even at the same time. But for me, I prefer my good old Google Maps. Next, as you might expect, when it comes to apps for finding spots. And unfortunately, I have to say, it's both a good thing and a bad thing, because it means we end up with a lot of people in the same place, sometimes even at spots we found ourselves and shared. These are the apps for finding a spot for van life, a place to sleep, and among them you'll obviously find Park4Night, but also CaraMaps. And for those who are willing to pay, there's the camping car park app. So, for Park4Night and CaraMaps, I can only encourage you, if you live this life, if van life is your lifestyle, if that's how you live, given how much it costs, I really recommend paying for the apps. It gives you access to a lot more spots, including ones that people who don't want to pay won't have access to. So sometimes you get spots that are a bit quieter. Park4Night obviously has a broader network. You'll find it all over Europe, even worldwide, whereas CaraMaps, even though new spots are added every day, is still more focused on France. Which is a shame, because personally, I find the CaraMaps app looks nicer than Park4Night. It's a matter of taste and design. Whereas Park4Night, in my opinion, feels a bit more austere. One strong point of Park4Night is that it doesn't just show you places to sleep, but also spots specifically dedicated for RV travelers and van lifers. That is, you'll also find laundromats, water points, of course. What else can you find? Picnic areas, lots of spots related to the van life world. And in that sense, it's actually pretty interesting. So, it's good to have both. Why? Because some spots aren't available on the other app. Since CaraMaps has a slightly smaller network, if you have spots on CaraMaps that you don't have elsewhere. On Park4Night, especially in France, you will probably have the chance to find a spot that's a bit quieter. In that case, It's obviously the app that has saved us the most times, especially in winter when the daylight fades and it's harder to find a spot. With it, we know right away where to go to sleep safely. Another type of app that's a bit less common, let's say, are apps for finding mobile networks. You should know that there are apps that either let you check the quality of the network where you're going, or even find out if there are any. Available Wi-Fi networks. That can be pretty useful. I know that in France, on my Android, I used an app called Réseau Mobile France, which let you see all the antennas in a given area. It allowed you to check which antennas were there, the strength of the network, and basically make sure you'd have 4G or 5G coverage. For us, it was essential since we work from the campervan. So, as soon as we don't have an internet connection, we're forced to get creative. And we don't have the time. So, that's how it is. That's all we have left to do. Similarly, available on Android and iPhone, and more internationally, there's an app called nPerf. It's the same idea. It's supposed to give you more or less the same information. I think it's also related to the number of people who have the app installed on their phone. So nPerf collects stats and knows whether the area you're going to has good coverage or not. So yeah, it can be pretty handy. It's not super accurate though, because I remember on the Isle of Skye, nPerf showed us a spot where we were supposed to have good coverage, but when we got there, there was absolutely nothing. So you shouldn't take it as something totally reliable, but it can still help you out. To get an idea of the network coverage where you're going to spend the night or where you're planning to park. Along the same lines, you can also find another app called OpenSignal. It's the same idea. It should be able to tell you, more or less, if the network coverage is good in the area you're heading to. Alright, let's move on to the other apps now. Our little gadget app, which can help you out if you don't have a bubble level. Yescapa, which is the company that lets you rent campervans and also earn money by renting out your own campervan. You'll find a link in the description that talks about this, and even a video. Yescapa has an app that works as a bubble level, meaning you set it down, but it will only work with phones that have a gyroscope system. But there you go. You launch the app and it will tell you if you're level or not, if your campervan is level on the ground. It's a simple little app, but it can be useful sometimes. For people who do sports, there's an app called Calisthenics Parks, which is pretty unique because it lists all the street workout parks you can find in France and around the world. It's still pretty new, but you can add them manually. And for those who like to work out, I have to admit it's a pretty cool app for that. Often, near skate parks and street workout parks, you'll find parking lots. There are places where they're sometimes out in nature. So, these can also be great spots that others don't know about, to go and park for a while. You're not far away. You can get some work done. Hey, I'll do a workout session. I'll go to the street workout park. I think it's an app that can be really useful. Here's another niche app, or maybe not, depending on whether your trusty home on wheels is equipped with LPG or not. But there is an app that lists all the places where you can refill with LPG, called myLPG.eu. It's all the more interesting because as time goes on, there are fewer and fewer spots to fill up with LPG. So, it's still important to double check. In the app, it tells you the last time someone, because there's also the price. But the price also lets you know when someone last updated the price for a location. And if it's been too long, it's possible that the place no longer exists or that you can't fill up with LPG there anymore. We know several places that used to offer LPG and gas, but unfortunately, they don't anymore. That's why it's so important to have this app if you use LPG. Two other apps, more or less. I know that depending on the time of year, you may or may not want to be exposed to the sun. That is, in winter, when it's not warm, you'll want certain areas of your camper, like for me, the front windshield, to be positioned so that the sun shines directly through the largest window and brings warmth into the camper. Whereas in winter, we'll still prefer to position ourselves to avoid having the sun shine directly or too early on the window. So, there's an app called Sun Locator. If you're not someone who knows exactly where the sun will rise or set, Sun Locator will help you. First, get an idea of where the sun is positioned depending on the time of day, which can be really handy if you have a lot of space to know, hey, I'll position myself this way or that way to get more or less sun efficiency. So, this locator will let you position yourself directly like that. As for weather apps, there are tons of them. I know there's one I really like called Windy. Windy also has the advantage of being available on tablets and computers, so you get used to the interface. I really like the way they present locations. It really just comes down to personal preference. There might be better options than Windy, I don't doubt it, but it's the one I like to use. Well, how could we not talk about ChatGPT? But honestly, I think we use it for just about everything. So, I don't even dare say what exactly we use it for. I want to tell you that before, in my list changes pretty often. I used to have an app called Mondly, which let you learn languages. By the way, it's kind of funny because yesterday or the day before, my subscription was supposed to renew. From my bad, I used to pay €50 once a year to learn other languages, and now, well, my subscription has ended. I stopped it, or I think it even stopped on its own because the credit card expired. And honestly, that's for the best. Because now, when it comes to learning languages, there's nothing better than ChatGPT. You can set it up to turn it into a language teacher. We'll cover that in another video where we'll talk about how to learn other languages. So, ChatGPT, obviously. After that, there are other apps, but those are more related to products you might have in your RV. For example, both the Victron app and the EcoFlow app, which let you manage the original setup I had in the RV for Victron with the Victron components, and even let you turn it off remotely. I know that at night, I like to turn off my inverter to make sure nothing was running unnecessarily. To have to cut off my network basically to avoid having the blue lights, because we like to have as little light as possible, and it's true that sometimes just a little blue LED is enough to make the whole camper blue. So it was useful for turning that off, and of course for setting certain things up. And with EcoFlow, it's always the same. I love this app. It lets you manage all the EcoFlow products. It allows you, in the camper, and I keep repeating this, to actually choose the amount of power you want coming in to recharge our battery. Here, I have an electrical outlet, which lets me recharge my EcoFlow battery from both the solar panels and the 220-volt grid. So, that could be one setup. But from the moment I say, for example, you only take 100 watts from the panels and leave me 350 peak watts for the others, That's it. I've covered all the essential apps for me that we use in van life. If you have any more, feel free to put them in the comments. I hope this video will be useful to you. Sending you kisses and see you soon. Bye-bye.